When my parents tell their friends that I am a designer, most people think I either design clothes or jewelries, and some of them also think that I'm an interior designer. You see, we live in a tier 3 city called Puri in Odisha, and that's the popular perception about design in our circle at least. But then, when my parents add to their definition that I am a UX designer, which is an IT job, the curiosity of my parents' generation people stops there, because they know that okay, IT job means my son sits in front of the computer all day to earn money. So everybody gets that clarity for that generation. However, with my generation people, like my friends and cousin, they think IT and design job means I must be making posters for social media. But still, out of curiosity, they ask, Bharat, what exactly do you do? And I say, I make screens for apps where I decide how will the text, image and button be placed so that it is easy for people to understand the app. Then a few of my engineering friends who like understanding things in a deeper way, they ask this question, isn't it the same as front end engineering? Now, this is where I need to refine my job description, and I say I make screens of apps, and this make has two parts: planning and execution. Just like when you make a house, an architect plans and an engineer executes. Similarly, in digital products, I am part of the planning team, and engineers are the ones who write the code to execute our plans. By the way, if you have enjoyed the chapter or you are enjoying the course, please subscribe to my channel. This is the third chapter, 37 more to go. So subscribe and hit that bell icon to never miss an update. And also it motivates me to get a sense of progress as you subscribe, as I see the subscriber numbers grow. So thank you, and moving on. So far we have covered the general understanding of the field, and design is basically making products while thinking about how will people use it. And like I said, this making has two parts: plan and execution. A graphic designer who creates the poster and prints it does both planning and execution. A fashion designer who designs the dress is a planner. A tailor who stitches it is the executioner. Similarly, UX designer plans digital product and a coder executes it. UX stands for user experience. Experience is a very broad theme. Everything that our body can sense and our mind can think basically becomes experiences. And that's why for all practical purposes we cannot really go into this broad definition and say UX designers design everything in life. That's absolutely garbage and only useful for probably beefing on Twitter and LinkedIn. For all practical purpose, 99% of the time, our work as UX designers working in a corporate is restricted to meeting user needs and business needs by making digital products. We are a part of the product team. That's the team that plans what needs to be added to a product. And every division in the product team has their own focus areas, which we will probably discuss somewhere in next chapters. Because UX, you see, at the end is a team sport. Here, individuals don't win, it's the team that wins at the end. For example, in cricket, one bowler's job could be not to give away too many runs and create a pressure, while the other bowler's job could be to utilize or capitalize that pressure, attack on that pressure and try to take wickets. It is okay if he leaks a bit of run, but his idea should be to attack. So one person is trying to conserve runs, one person is trying to attack. Similarly, in UX design, we should know our role and cooperate and coordinate with other team members, like majorly product management team and development team. If you ask me, 99% of the time there are only 4 roles in UX: research, plan, present and handoff. We will go in detail in upcoming chapters, but here is an overview. In research, our job is to give suggestions to the product team. And these suggestions are majorly of two types. One, what new features should we make? Two, what old features should we fix or improve? In plan, our job is to decide what information needs to be shown and how will this information be sequenced so that when they are shown one after another, it is easy for user to understand. For example, let's take the example of this YouTube video section and see what's planning might have gone into making this video section of YouTube. First of all, there must be hundreds of features that the team would have come up with, out of which they would have prioritized and filtered out only a few important ones which are best for user and business needs. Then they find relation between the list items and group them. Like here you can see certain things are video control related, certain things are timeline control related, certain things are profile details related and so on. So here grouping has happened. Now there is again reprioritizations. Here what they do is You prioritize which groups needs to be treated like primary, which group needs to be treated like secondary, and within those groups which line item needs to be treated as primary, which line item needs to be treated as secondary, and so on. And then based on this plan the screen is created. So this information organization part, where we are grouping information, prioritizing information, filtering information, this part is called information architecture. But this is just one part. Now let's talk about the second part, which is the sequencing part. Let's take a look at the minimization feature of YouTube. Here the user lands on the home page, clicks on the video, and the video opens and starts playing. User clicks on the video that is playing and video controls appear. User clicks on the downward arrow on the left hand side and the video minimizes, and when the user goes out of the app, the video plays in the background. That's the sequence of actions user takes and related information we display in response to those actions. And this step-by-step action and information sequence is called user flow. Like UX research has two parts, what to make and what to fix, plan has also two parts, what to show and in what sequence. What to show is called information architecture, in what sequence is called user flows. This is just the overview. We will dive deep into this later in the course. Now comes the present part, where we actually create something tangible. This is where we take the plan and make screens out of it. This is the phase where we create screens on Figma and present it across the teams to get their approval. This process of getting approval and aligning people is called stakeholder alignment or stakeholder management. So if you want to know more, you can Google about that particular term. Now we can break this present phase into three roles: UI design, UX writing, and visual design. UI design is the part where we draw rectangles and call it wireframes. I mean, this is where we create the elements of the screen. And then in UX writing, we make sure the words and sentences that we use are easy to understand and align with our brands. For example, Instagram uses account and follow. YouTube uses words like channel and subscribe as their lingo. So you can see that difference. Another example, when there is an error, let's say in a payment process, instead of saying something went wrong, where user doesn't understand what happened and what to do next, you can always say that the merchant's SBI bank is temporarily down, try paying them to a different bank. Here the user knows exactly what is the problem and what can be done. So that's the UX writing copies overview. And last role is visual design, where we create visual assets like icons and illustrations, and if needed we also animate them. And then lastly, the handoff phase. Here, once the design is approved by planning team, it goes to execution team, which is the engineering team. Here there are three things: feasibility, coordination, and audit. Feasibility is dev team telling us if certain features can be coded within the deadline or not. Then the product management decides whether to move the deadline or make a basic version of the feature or postpone the feature altogether, right? Then one part is coordination, where the dev team asks us doubt and we clear those doubts. Simple, just collaboration. And then the last part is audit, where the dev team shares the developed product with us and we audit or review if the development is as per our design or not. If there are any mistake, we ask them to fix it. This is also known as design QA in some companies. QA stands for quality assurance. By the way, QA is a separate team altogether as well, but design team usually owns design QA because designers' eyes are well trained to notice small visual mistakes, which many a times a normal QA team may not be able to catch. Now, that's the job of the entire UX design team. If you feel overwhelmed, just letting you know that's the job of the entire design team. Depending on how the team is structured, you may be asked to do all four roles or part of it. It varies from companies to companies. Some companies prefer UX generalist who can do all the work, while some organization prefer specialist role like UX designer, UI designer, UX researcher, UX writer, product illustrator, motion designer, and so on. Now to summarize everything, in research you suggest what to make and what to fix. In plan you plan how to organize and how to sequence information. In present, you make tangible screens, refine copy, and if needed, add illustration or animation. And in handoff, you check tech feasibility of your design, collaborate with developers, and review their work. And finally, when the feature goes live and reaches actual users, research team tracks it and informs product team if anything needs fixing. And thus, the loop of improvement continues. The thing is, it is easy to fix a feature when it is with design team than when it is with development team. Hence, some companies test their design before doing the dev handoff so that they can fix any issue before putting the development effort. This validation of design in the design phase is supposed to be the ideal design practice. However, the downside is it takes time and pushes the release date. That's why many companies take the risk of testing features after it is released, and the risk many a times feels low because most feature we design follow standard UI patterns and guidelines that we know works in other popular apps. It's when we make a dramatically unique feature is when we definitely need testing in design phase. For example, when Google Pay launched the scratch card feature, it needed to test it in the design phase because they were the first one to do it. Then when Paytm did the same feature, they can test it in design phase, yes, or they can skip it to test it after development if they are fairly confident that the user can figure it out because the user has already figured it out on Google Pay. So I understand this was a slightly advanced conversation for a fresher, but if you couldn't understand this slide, that's okay. We will cover it later someday. Just remember that there is no one best design process like they all tell in the book. Processes are actually designed based on constraints and what we are optimizing for. We can either do it fast or do it right. It's that simple. And sometimes being fast is better for the business, so we optimize our design process for speed, even though doing it right might sound very ideal design wise. And that's why I said design is a team sport. We cannot isolate it and have an unrealistic expectation about our design process and our design product roles. So we will dive deeper into these features in future chapters, but for the next chapter I will answer one most asked question in UX, which is what is the correct term to use? Is it UX, UI UX, UX UI, or product designer? So subscribe if you haven't. Stay tuned and see you in the next one.